So I'm a little bit bummed. Shakespeare and Wyatt clearly got into something that I missed completely out on, because this is what I arrived to today. Look at my horse. He's soaking wet from top to bottom. Look at it. Look at that face. I had to just pull a bunch of burrs and sticks out of his mane, and he is covered from head to toe in mud. So let me just show you the difference here. This is a curry comb, and I started from here down with the curry comb. The rest of him looked like this, okay? So I've kind of done this side of him with the curry comb, although I haven't gotten his shoulder and under his mane or his head yet, obviously, or his legs. But you can see where I've curried him compared to this side. So here's the weird thing. He's literally wet all the way up here. He's wet all the way up here. So that tells me that he and Wyatt, because Wyatt doesn't look much better, they obviously were in the creek playing and I missed it. True is dry as a bone, so this is not rain. This is very, very clearly creek. So, I mean, Wyatt's legs are still soaking wet. Look, he's really wet. Look, you can actually see the water still dripping down him. So I think I just missed both boys having a big time in the creek. So I'm kind of bummed at that because, yeah, that would have been super fun to catch on camera, especially given how high up this water is on them. I mean, they must have really, really got in it. And, you know, possibly even laid down in it and rolled, because that creek is pretty deep now that I've cleaned it out. So, but what I'm doing right now, God, this dust. What I'm doing right now is just currying all this mud off of him. Of course, it's kind of pointless because he's just going to go roll. And he's going to have it all over. Oh, yeah, that's still like wet. Look at that. He's dripping wet underneath there. So, yeah, he either kicked a bunch of water up on himself. But he's wet from here down. You know, his whole shoulder, whole leg is soaking wet. So they must have really, really, really had a good time down there. And sadly, we missed the whole thing. But it does make me happy because at least I know they're playing in the creek. And, you know, they're having a good time. But this little tool here that I'm using is something that every horse owner will need if you have a horse. It's just called a curry comb or a curry brush. Basically a piece of rubber, and it attaches to your hand like that. And then what you can do, currying is usually the first step. Like before you can bristle brush them, you need to curry them and knock all this excess dirt and dust off their coats. So it's like step one. A lot of people will go in and they will do a circular motion with a curry comb. But honestly, sorry, this dust is terrible. Shakespeare's coat is so thick, and that when it's wet, it's really hard for me to do a circular motion because it gets all hung up. So what I usually do when it's this bad and this muddy is I just go in short, quick strokes to kind of knock all that top layer of dirt off of him. And then, my God, you really committed to it, didn't you, boy? Look at that face. You're full of mud. So the curry comb just knocks those really thick layers of mud out, and it's soft enough because it's rubber that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't hurt them or anything. Now you do have to be careful around their face, eyes. And you do the best you can, but my God, he really laid into it. Like when he rolled, he really wanted to make himself a mess. So, I mean, it's even on his mouth. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Good grief. Just created a lot of work for me. But I guess that's okay. You had a good time, so that's all that matters. My goodness. And then, not really going to mess with his eye there because I don't want to accidentally scrape his eye. I'll get that with my hand or something. But yeah, this would be, this is the easiest way to knock all this excess dirt and mud and debris off them. And then what you would do is you follow up with a bristle brush. Once you get all these big chunks of, you know, dirt and mud and stuff out, you just follow up with kind of a, on him, I have to follow up with a heavily, like a very coarse thickness bristle brush. And then I've got to get a finer, you know, I've got to brush through with that. And then I've got to get a finer brush, like a softer one, and just kind of do a whisk totally off the top. Now, the other option here is I literally could just take him up and give him a bath, but I don't want to do that at this moment, especially in Asheville, because our water is in short supply and the water is not really safe. Like, it's not safe to drink yet, and I don't want to like be spraying his face and stuff like that with water that's got a lot of the gunk in it and sediment and potentially, you know, bad stuff for him to be swallowing. I figure if I can't swallow it, I don't want him to. So he can go down and drink at the creek. And then for the other horses, we are carrying in potable water. Like we go down to the well at the neighbor's house down there, and we fill up a 275-gallon tub. And then he brings it up here on the tractor, and then we have to fill up all the water, you know, all the water buckets in the barn with it, and all that good stuff. So, but you can see Shakespeare looks a lot better after being curry combed. And then this is the stage where I would take a thick bristle brush, almost like a broom, you know, kind of thickness, and I would just knock all that off of him. So I'll do that in a minute. I'm not going to film that, but let me go ahead and get to these guys now. Hi, True. See, True looks fine. She we all know how much True hates water, so she does not get in the creek except to drink. She does everything she can possibly do to stay out of the creek. And then there's Wyatt. Hey, what are you into over here? Come on, son, move. You don't look any better. Good grief. I'm just going to push him out of here because he's eating that old scrub on the ground, and I don't want him doing that. I don't know what that stuff even is. But yeah, he's soaking wet. So now I'm going to have to repeat the same process with Wyatt and brush him down. And the reason I do this, folks, you might be saying, well, why are you even brushing these horses? What's the point? I mean, they're not going to a show. I'm not, you know, getting them ready to go under saddle or anything like that. But the reason I want to brush this stuff off of them is because there's this thing called rain rot. And it's kind of like just what it sounds like. When their coats get wet, they develop a skin condition, especially right now while we're going into the winter and their coats are getting this really thick undercoat. Like if I was just to leave all that wet mud on him, sometimes there's a bacteria that can get on their skin, and it causes these little bumps, these little itchy bumps. And they actually become quite painful to them because they start bleeding and, you know, flaking off, and they're really just not. Rain rot's kind of gross. Oh, bless you. I know. Well, if you hadn't got yourself so dusty, don't look at me, dude. You did it. So Shakespeare's jealous because he wants me to brush him some more. But anyway, you want to just kind of, at the very least, try to always keep your horses, you know, run a brush through them or a curry comb through them at least a few times a week, because it just helps with their overall hygiene. It helps with their coats. It helps get the nasty stuff out, you know, and get rid of all that dead hair. And oh my God, he's a mess. I don't even want to stand downwind because that dust is so bad coming off of him right now. Yeah, Shakespeare, you better move too, buddy. But yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna sit here and do this. I have to actually hold my breath while I do it in some areas because he is so, I mean, it's just like floating off of him like baking flour, and I don't want to inhale it. So I'm going to stop filming for now, but you get the general idea, I think, of what a curry comb is. God, now what did you do? Yeah, so these guys clearly got into the creek. They got all wet, and then they decided to roll. And when they rolled, they got all this junk on them. Don't be pushy. So anyway, alrighty. Well, I'm gonna go and oh, you are grouchy now. Look at those ears. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tend to these two little pig pens here, and I will talk to you guys later. At least True stayed clean. I got 1 out of 3. So, all right. I'll talk to y'all later.